Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Scott. Tonight we'll be talking a little bit about communications. Communications comes in many different forms, in many different ways. We use YouTube, we use the internet, which is, YouTube is on. We use news feeds, we use plus our televisions, our radios. We have lots of ways of getting information one way to the other. We use Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all sorts of methods of communicating with each other. But what happens when this stuff stops? Or what happens if it doesn't stop, but it becomes highly regulated? Today, we are seeing more and more censorship, by these big companies such as Google, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. They're all applying their own version of censorship, and while it's their right to do that, the thing that concerns me is that there just never seems to be any real rules. It's a moving line in the sand, and so you never know, when you cross that line. Sometimes until it's too late, as some voices have heard, and some voices have witnessed, and some voices have been banned for. We're not exactly sure what, but these companies, they are private, and currently they're treating themselves as an open forum. I'm not sure if that'll continue or the government will step in and change that. There's a lot to be said that when you go from an open forum, which is supposed to be open and free speech and all this, to where you are editing and censoring, data points or inputs in there, and then now are you becoming a publisher, like a newspaper or a magazine or even a news or, a CNN type, a cable. And when that happens, so some things that happens during that is the tax structure changes. So it'll be interesting in a couple of years to see how it goes. For me, I don't typically get into the what I call the catastrophic stuff going out there, but who knows? Today I may be okay, tomorrow I may not. I hope I stay. I try not to do anything too controversial, but yet I think there's things that we need to discuss and be prepared. But I do want to talk about communication and things that we can do. I do a YouTube channel. I also have a podcast that I put out on about 5 different directories. You can find me on iTunes. You can find me on Spotify, on Stitcher. So I have a podcast too, and I like the format of podcast because it's easy. I can take a podcast. I can make it, about the same way I make a YouTube video. I record it, and then I post-process it a little bit, then I can upload it to YouTube. I do the same thing with the podcast. It's got in some respects it's a little harder, and in some respects it's a little easier. But one of the reasons why I'm trying to get better or good at podcasting is it is very portable. YouTube, like I said, another post, video takes up a lot of space, a lot of memory, so it's not that portable. A podcast is about 1/10 of a YouTube video for a quality, rendering, and so podcasts, if need be, they could be carried by hand from one place to another, on a memory flash drive or whatever. So. I hope it never comes to that, but we got to think about that. What if the internet is shut down? We go into everyone says a grid down situation, but we'll say a semi-grid down, where the places you get from information are either gone, or they're severely restricted, or they are now being run by the state. And so the information that you're concerned about may be a little harder to get. Whereas if you have people doing podcasts, they can carry them on a little flash drive. They'll work on just about every computer that's still running out there. They'll work on MP3 players, and most operating systems have some sort of audio player, so there's nothing special required. Very minimal. Probably most of your Raspberry Pis or those small computers will play an audio file. So as a means of transferring information from one place to another, I think they're very good. And I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about what I call guerrilla podcasting. Now, guerrilla podcasting, I know it sounds, clandestine and sneaky and stuff, but really what it is what are the things that I can use with me, that I carry with me almost everywhere I go, and I can create a podcast on the spot. And I think that's important, because if we ever get into that situation where our news and information is restricted, to be able to sit there and say, let's do a podcast on this right now, and I'll get it in the line and start spreading the word. And so it's important to be able to do that. So I call it guerrilla podcasting, but really what that means is, having the stuff with you pretty much all the time, so that you can make a podcast anywhere you are, or YouTube. They can be used for both, but in this particular case, I'm talking about podcasts. With the frame of reference that we may not have the bandwidth, or we may not have the capability to do YouTubes anymore. YouTube may go away suddenly, and you lose that format. So what I've done is I've made myself a little kit, and really it's composed of just a couple items. I have 2 microphones. This is a Shure, I think it's a MXL or something, but it's a Shure microphone. I also have a Rode lavalier, and so I have 2 microphones with me. I just got the Shure and I'm playing with it, but I think I like it a little bit better than the Rode. They cost about the same. I think the Rode may be a little more expensive, but I have 2 microphones. And the reason why I have 2 microphones and 2 lavalier microphones is so I can do an interview with somebody, and I can clip one microphone on me and clip the other microphone to them, and that we can have a conversation, a Q&A or whatever we want to do. And the lavaliers actually cut out quite a bit of extraneous noise. That's why I like them. Whereas if you have a bigger omnidirectional microphone, they pick up a lot more of the surrounding noise, the ambient noise, and that can distract from what you're really trying to do. Now, you might be thinking, okay, 2 microphones, but an iPhone only has 1 input. You are right. I've added to my collection this little device made by Rode. It's got a lightning connector on it. But what it has, if you see, it has 2 inputs for 2 microphones, and it's got an earphone output, so you can monitor what you're saying. The nice thing about this device is it's got its own digital to audio and audio to digital converters built into it, so that when I am listening to the conversation, there is no latency. In other words, you don't get that echo sound as it goes through the phone and then back out. I hear as it's going word for word, and that's important when you're trying to make a podcast, because if you've ever done it the other way, you get a little disoriented when you say something and then you hear it like a half a second later. But this little device, I forget what I paid for, is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $100. It's a little pricey, but it allows me to do a 2-person interview, me and somebody else, or somebody else and somebody else, but it allows us to gather that information and then prepare it. The other thing I carry, of course, is a pair of headphones. I got these on sale. They're Sennheisers. They were discontinued. They were about $15. if you get much cheaper than that, there's probably a good chance that they won't work right out of the box. So you spend a little extra money, you get a decent set. And that's pretty much it. It allows me to make a podcast, and I can do a podcast on my phone, edit it on my phone, and upload it to a service on my phone. Or I can get it ready, I can turn it into an MP3, and then I can start emailing it to people. So it's important to have different means of communications, and as I go on, I'll talk more about the different types of comms. I don't get too heavy into it because, comms are specific to an individual group. How you do your comms is up to you, as long as they work for you. And really, I don't necessarily advocate one form of comms over the other. I'm kind of a comms guy. I've done comms most of my life. There's things I like, things I don't like. Do I say, oh, you have to do it my way? No, you do what works for you. But it's important that for each group, each community, establish how they're going to do their comms, and that it works for them. Comms are very important, and even inter-community, inter-tribal comms are important too. Example, I go back to this podcast. I discover something and I make a podcast of it, and then we can spread it from community to community. It may be some intelligence information. It may be a way to do something new. Let's say one community has discovered a way to quickly kill zombies that nobody's ever done it before. Well, we put it on a podcast, and then we can share that. So now everybody is quickly killing zombies. I know, poor example, but the idea is you go ahead and you learn how to podcast, you learn how to YouTube. You don't have to get out there and be a prolific podcaster or YouTuber, but get the feel for it, get some of the tools you need for it, and practice. And that way, if the time comes where you really need it, at least one person in your group, you, will know how to do it, and you can help not only with other members of your tribe, but you can help other neighboring communities. And you want to do that. And you want to build a strong group of communities, not just your community. And so one way to do that's by sharing information. It's also a good morale booster. It's kind of like most of you guys today are too young to realize this, but during the war, they used to have newsreels at the beginning of movies in the theater. You go to the theater to watch a picture, and the first couple of minutes of the show, well, it wasn't advertisements for other movies, it was actual news, and you would sit there and you would get caught up on the world news before you watched your movie. And so you could do the same thing as a morale booster. You can gather your community and say, hey, we got a podcast from our sister community over here, and they've got some news, and I thought you thought you'd share it with everybody, so you all meet somewhere, put it on the loudest player you got, and then everybody can hear it. And that's kind of typically that's a morale booster if it's good news. So anyhow, keep all that in mind, and just keep working your plans. Keep moving forward. I know I'm beat. I had a heavy weekend of work and doing church stuff and doing a lot of work around our house as we get ready to make our next move. But every day we just keep working it, and just keep working it and working it. Well, that's all I got for everybody. So you all take care. Again, if you like what you're seeing here, hit the subscribe button. Don't be afraid to comment. Hit subscribe, comment. Join us. I know I'm still a small channel, but I'm hoping I'm putting out some stuff that you can use. Anyhow, everybody, take care, stay safe, stay secure.